Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. Now, we know Keir Starmer was out there pre-warning us about the fact that things were bad, but they were going to get worse before they get better. Well, for Scotland, things are already worse, but they're just going to get worser and worser until eventually the whole thing implodes. The debt's so big that the black hole sucks everything in. Scottish Labour have released a dossier, and this dossier is a dossier of doom and disaster as far as Shona Robinson and the SNP are concerned. It highlights what 17 years of misrule has led to. And they're talking about the not just the money overspent on things that you have to spend money on, but 5 billion wasted on things you didn't have to spend money on. And it makes for some very grim reading if you are a taxpayer. Now, this whole thing is sort of exposing where these monies went. It's exposing the level of, I suppose, idiocy, incompetency, lack of control, lack of care. There is literally no one there. She's about to wield the axe and cut service after service after service. At the same time, she's going to raise taxes left, right and centre. She's going to drive away investment. She's going to drive away entrepreneurship. She's going to drive away people. People who can move will get up and go because they don't want to pay the huge taxes that Scotland's going to have for its reduced services. It's going to swirl round and round and round. It's spiralling down until eventually it disappears up its own financial backside. But despite all these concerns, and despite the fact that it is entirely down to down to the SNP, the SNP are blaming Westminster. And so to push back on this, Anna Sarwar from Labour, like I say, has released this dossier. And it's showing where all the waste has been put, basically. But this, of course, is all, and he's highlighting it, it's all SNP waste. Now, you've got the general oversight of overpaying, of not having failure controls, of not having limits, and not having the balls to say no is one of the big problems. But they're saying there's incompetent planning, badly targeted cuts. Nothing is ever worked out. No one ever looks at the consequences of whatever. But there are so many different places. Now, of course, they're highlighting the number one, the big one, Ferguson Marine, which is now getting on for £500 million, which is up from the original 97 million. From 97 million to £500 million is a big jump, as well as being nearly 7 years late. You can't deal with that level of incompetence, on anything. There's the Social Security IT system, which was paid for, installed, scrapped, reinstalled, but different. They changed the software 3 times. That's millions and millions, nearly £90 million overspend on that. Barlini, they haven't laid a single brick yet. The new Barlini replacement, 300 million over budget. Still not complete. Not likely to be complete for years upon years. And that's just the big stuff. Wait until that they had planned. Wait until you look at the stuff they hadn't planned. 10 million lost with the deposit return scheme collapsing. And now Biffa are suing. And with all the other people, all the supermarkets going to sue, the Federation of Small Retailers are going to sue. There's going to be suing left, right and centre. This could skyrocket to anywhere between 250 and 300, 400, 500 million pounds. Could be another £500 million. You start adding these things together, very soon you get to some big money. There's poor decision making because of things that were done at planning stages. And so you're getting the likes of the QEUH now going to be sued. There's over 300 million has already been spent on clinical compensation for problems in the health service. And that's only going to grow, especially if the test cases over the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital go through. There was 145 million on the government losses for legal fees, 160 million so far over the Rangers prosecution fees. There's all sorts. There's Quango, Scottish Enterprise, the National Investment Bank. Lost. 160 million here, 80 million there. It's everywhere. And that's before you look at what's going on this year, because these are only the figures up to the last year, last December. It's going to get massive, and it's big, and it's out of control. And none of it at all is the fault of Westminster. It isn't Westminster who go to the High Court continually because they don't like the decisions that have been reached. It isn't Westminster who are spending money on the ferries. It isn't Westminster who brought in the DRS and all these things. It's all the SNP at Holyrood. Back when they thought that they knew what they were doing. Back when they had the majority, a lot of this. Because nobody was saying, will you stop and look at the consequences? Because they never will. It's a good idea. Let's do it. Why? Because Sturgeon, the perfect one's idea, and nobody dared question her because they're all scared. They were all fiat, shitting themselves. She gave them the basilisk eye. And so things went through. Bad ideas, terrible ideas. And the worst of it was, there's no control. No one ever put in failure metrics. No one ever looked at the compensation. No one ever said, this contract has got to have a clause in it saying if you don't meet it by this amount of time, you pay us money. And things like that. No one. If there was a business, it would be bankrupt in weeks. But unfortunately, it's not. And it's never going to get bankrupt because you're just going to keep taxing until the Scottish people have got nothing more to give. And just as they've entered this worst period in their history in terms of debt, they decide they're going to turn the taps off on the North Sea and stop all that lovely, lovely oil money flowing. It's genius level thinking. What are these people on? When you're in a deep, deep financial well, you got to make sure the oil is in that well with you. Because when you've got oil wells, you can swim your way to the top. They are screwed, aren't they? They've just wiped out billions of investment with their decisions over oil. Billions. Jobs will go. And with it, tax. The economy will crash. Scotland won't even be third world. There are third world countries out there whose economies are better than Scotland. And yet these morons keep voting for them. Hey ho, let me know what you think. Thanks a lot. Take care. Goodbye.